The St Albans Organ Museum, where the whole venture began. It was in this wonderful museum that we first saw the small organ that inspired both myself and my wife to embark on the project of building a small mechanical organ. Little did we know what was about to descend on the household and how it was to change our lives. How do these wonderful organs work? From a child it's always been a mystery. How do small holes in paper produce music, and even the keys going up and down? To a mechanical mind this is quite intriguing. Pipes, most wonderful sound, and there again this one's being played from what appears to be a cardboard strip. Fortunately in the museum they have a tea break, and during the tea break at this particular afternoon we talked to various people and were led to a certain book that I'd been trying to find for the last 20 years. A very expensive paperback from America, a reprint of a 100-year-old manual on how to build an organ. Organ building for amateurs. I immediately snapped this book up as an investment for the future. How did I get from the book to this instrument? Yes, now that's another story. It certainly wasn't easy, and a lot of effort went into discovering exactly how to get the music from a roll of paper to actually end up playing tunes. The book, upon reading, described how to build a chamber organ, hardly what I wanted, but nevertheless it described a method of making paper pipes which turned out to be unsuitable really, and they certainly didn't look all that easy to make, although the book said they were. More interesting to my mind was the wooden pipes. Having got the bandsaw in the garage and glue and nails, these seemed a much better proposition. The drawings gave the dimensions and the outline and more or less all the ideas of how to do it, and within a fortnight of buying the book I had a carrier bag full of pipes, which I was very proud of and duly took back to the Organ Museum. The next problem was the bellows. Bellows in a conventional organ, which is what the book described, are not really suitable, it turns out, for the small mechanical organ. Like a lot of things, when they're scaled down a quarter size, they cease to work as they would full size. So this is the quartered down model of the book model, and represents probably about a fortnight of work and experimentation, and it's long since been put into the dustbin. Just how holes in paper can produce music turns out to be another big problem, and one that very few people seem to know exactly how it works. There are various ways of making it work. They all seem to rely on a servo mechanism consisting of a flexible membrane. The construction was carried out in true Blue Peter style, using household equipment and items found around the home. Each diaphragm needed to be pre-stretched, so this small wooden jig ensured that when the top piece of plastic was placed on the bottom one, it would actually be curved inwards. The body for the assemblies were turned out of fairly thick plastic perspex sheet, and each one had to have this spring-loaded interior, which, like most of the other parts of the organ, was assembled using a glue gun. This method of construction is ideal for this type of organ, I think, because it's quick and forms totally airtight seals, and sticks to most items. The spring pressures were checked by experimentation, and each one was wound on the handle of a small screwdriver and then bent into the spiral shape. So the plastic sheet goes in the small jig. The glue will be applied to the corners of the plastic housing. This is really just simply to keep the plastic in position and bent over the centre protrusion until the rest of it can be glued properly. So that this is carefully placed down, held for a moment until the glue sets, and then it can be lifted off and the gluing process around the edge is completed. There's the puff. Nice time to check that it's got the right degree of sloppiness in its face. As you'll see from this, the glue gun in fact is ideal in a lot of ways for organ building. It's not traditional by any means, but I'm sure if it had been about when they made gaviolas, they would have been very happy to have put it to full use. And I think the same would probably apply to plastic materials, because it took me a long time to find the right plastic to do this job, and in the end it came up purely by chance and turned out to be the extremely rubbery, flexible cover that was supplied with a Panasonic video recorder. I've never found anything better since, and I'm sure if a plastics expert got onto the problem, there would be something much better, and probably something that would last forever, as I believe these will. The organ contains 39 of these in total, and so far, this is 3 years after building the instrument and playing it, none have failed or given any form of problem. So I believe the construction to be of marketable quality. This particular one is being made in the with the experience of the previous 39 behind me, so it's going together like clockwork. The plastic pipe is next attached, and once again this is smeared around with some hot glue, which ensures a completely airtight seal. Even the flexible pipe was difficult to source, to get something that was flexible and strong enough but not too thick and heavy. The action of these little puffs, as they're called, determines the way that the organ performs. If they were too stiff, then the action would be very slow and sluggish, and ideally they need to be very, very fast, and no doubt the original leather that was used did this job remarkably well, but these perform adequately. So just how does the paper roll of music get read and end up playing a tune? Well, we've seen the puff now being made, and as we can see, sucking on the tube pulls the diaphragm in, releasing the suction lets the diaphragm come out. This action is used to push up a small wooden valve which allows wind under small pressure to go through the hole along a channel and sound the pipe. At the end of the plastic connecting tube is a small plastic box which is evacuated by the vacuum pump in the organ. So by assembling the pipes in the correct way, sucking on the tube to represent the vacuum in the organ, the finger is the paper having holes or no holes, and as you can see, the valve follows this action exactly. There it goes, wobbling up and down. And this is in fact how the paper holes are turned into music. Having put in roughly 6 months of extremely laborious and difficult work, we ended up with a building frame containing, in this picture, most of the pipes. All the items were literally floating around and very wobbly. The pipes were untuned in the sort of box that it's been built in. And when it's finished, it will be in a different one.
Yeah, other little tubes.
Right.
Oh, they do little pipes, them little green ones, John.
Yeah.
Oh, it's clever.
Hasn't got the wheel on it.
It's quite clever.
No, we've got to have a wheel on it now.
Does he still do his stuff?
Remember, this roll of music was cut out on the morning of this lady's visit, especially to test the organ in this state. And apart from, well, almost a rudimentary run through, this is the first time the instrument's been played, and certainly the first time it's been out of the garage. So remembering that Daisy has never played a barrel organ before in her life and really doesn't know what to expect, this is the result. What I've done today, knowing you was coming and officially opening this thing,
I was hoping you'd see we got something done, but that's all.
I've cut this piece of music out today for you to open it, and the music's never been played before. This is brand new, especially for you. You've played other tunes.
It's like a piano.
Yeah. So you've got to come and turn the handle, you've got to turn it steady, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Can you get out to
Yes, I can. That's what I can miss.
If it works perfectly, it will be surprising because I've cut it out as quick as I could. Right. Do it. No, faster than that. Right. Okay.
It's like the old man.
Yeah.
Oh, I love this.
The organ in its building frame. These are the main melody pipes, 2 ranks with a registration control. There'll be 5 more pipes at the end to complete the range of melody notes. So that will go from B flat all the way up to F, and at the far end is an octave of violin type pipes. They're slightly different design. And give the organ a characteristic barrel organ sound. The main pipes, when it's finished, will be situated further down, so the whole thing is going to look quite tidy. The air is supplied by bellows, which are situated underneath. Various wobbly bits there that go up and down as it goes round. All made out of odds and ends. The big round box there is a vacuum chamber, flexible vacuum chamber, so it stores up some vacuum. So there we come around the back. The operating mechanisms are all situated underneath, consist of little puffs and valves lined with soft plastic and stuff. Tiny little pipes there that take the control vacuum from the reading head, which is situated in the middle of this frame. As you wind the handle, so the thing goes round. There's a tiny little lever that just unlocks it all while you rewind the paper. So now we'll wind the handle, and round goes the take-up roller. Right, now we're looking at it from the other direction. Obviously there's no roll of paper on there to play. The rolls are rolls of fax paper. They're the ends of the rolls of fax paper that come free of charge from all the various fax machines that work. Very useful source. I usually throw them away when they've still got about 10-15 feet on them. That's enough to play a short tune. But now I've put a roll of music in there. This is actually a roll that was made when only half the pipes were in, so it's only got half covered in notes. Right, little needle there, little meter to check the vacuum supply, because that was one of the most difficult things to sort of imagine what was going to go on with it, so that keeps an eye on that. Looking down inside the machine, it's not a mass of pipes, but there's big pipes where the main air is supplied to drive the wind through the pipes, and lots of smaller pipes that supply vacuum to operate the valve actuators and read the music. The bellows are underneath. They're in the base of the machine with 10 pipes. The bellows is a original idea, which is a plastic bag in a pillowcase type arrangement. Works pretty well. And then through the end we can see various little things there. Let's try and get through that hole. Yeah, these are all the pipes and a chunk of iron that weights down the end of the bellows reservoir, and behind it is a safety valve. As the wind bag rises, when it gets full enough, then that little thing touches on a piece of wood and opens and lets the air out again. So it's a safety valve. And there it is. When it's all done, it should look reasonably well.
Roughly 1 month later, the organ was almost finished and being tested in the School of Management Forum, officially opened by Leo Murray. A strange occasion really, because the organ was commissioned by one of the lecturers for a special occasion, which I found out a couple of days before was only his birthday. And but as he said, it was a challenge, and these projects, he reckoned, were not finished on time unless there was a definite time set. And I think he was right really, because it was a challenge to get it ready for his birthday, and here it is.
Let's hear the music now. They've all gone now.
organ soon acquired a monkey made by Daisy. The organ still has the monkey made by Daisy, and in this shot you can see some of the workings underneath the pipes that produce the bass notes. Not really deep enough, but adequate. And the two feeders for the air supply, and the bottoms of the two cylindrical vacuum pumps together with a small mixing chamber there, and one or two of the flexible pipes for the actuators for the bass pipes. All of this has remained unchanged, and the majority of the organ as built at this time is now exactly the same. Embellishments have been added, but the actual foundation of the organ is exactly as it was in this photograph. A simple indicator shows the capacity of the reservoir, air supply, vacuum, and this was primarily to check on how many holes I could cut in the rolls of paper while developing the technique for making music. This is the reading head. The plastic chamber is underneath it, glued on. 39 holes that correspond to the location of the holes in the music rolls. The two small levers on the side control the rewind action, a small clutch on the take-up lever, and a small roller is lifted to clear the paper from the reading holes so that dust doesn't drop down them. This is a view inside the organ, and as you can see, the 39 pipes connect under the reading head. Garden hose couples air from the bellows. A larger pipe takes air to the main melody pipes at the top. Here we can see the actuators doing their job. And the bellows at the bottom rising and falling as each charging unit pushes the air in. The pipes are still not tuned properly at this stage. Here we can see the actuators for the accompaniment pipes. These were rather closer together, and they were the first ones I made, and here we can see the main distribution point for the air from the end of the bellows, and the pistons going up and down, the metal one being the vacuum pump driving shaft. The vacuum system was no doubt the most difficult part of the organ to get right, and the secret lay in this chamber, which is a spring-loaded diaphragm which actually stores up a vacuum supply. The white lever pulling the small string operates the suction indicator device. Here we can see the main crankshaft going round, the vacuum chamber being pulled in, tensioner on the drive shaft to the paper roller, and the vacuum chamber finally evacuates. During the building of the organ, it was very difficult to get information about specific workings of items. A book was described that became almost another challenge simply to find, written by Mr. Cockayne of St Albans. This apparently described the complexities and intricate details of many old organs, including how the paper rolls were read. Fortunately, this only actually appeared at the library after the organ was working. Had I got it earlier, I think the diagrams describing the actions would have put anyone off trying to recreate them. In fact, although they would have been fairly simple to make in their day on a mass production scale, to do it at home and with the precision required would have been impossible, certainly for me. This is the Wurlitz paper reading system, and even from this diagram it must be quite clear that it's considerably more complicated than the one that I devised. Finally, how does one go about making music rolls for such an instrument? Well, the answer is not too difficult, really. This is my jig for holding the paper. At the moment I'm marking out the time scale. The paper runs through this organ at roughly 1.5 inches a second, and so it's quite easy to work out how far apart the bars and notes need to be. The next part is to mark with a pencil the position of the notes, and that's what I'm doing now. This must have been a very early roll, because I now mark the whole thing out in pencil before doing any cutting, but even now occasionally I make a mistake on the timing, and at least doing it in this way I was able to play part of it before I went ahead and cut the whole thing out. Having marked it with pencil, the cutting out procedure with a scalpel knife is not too difficult. In fact, 6 sheets can be cut at the same time for repeats in bars. The movable T-square you'll see is marked with the exact position of the holes, so there's no difficulty in lining them up. So the next time you see a organ grinder with his monkey and the instrument, you'll have a good idea of how it may work, and you'll understand why the little box on the front should have a few pennies or more put in it.